Look, it's really exciting to be with you this morning and announce $500,000. We've got $200,000 that are going to go to Crofney, which is, I actually bought one for you, not realising that we were going to be socially distanced in separate studios, but a pink donut for you this morning. I notice we're a little bit matchy-matchy, but Crofney Donuts and Whitmer Advisors and Genu Training are getting $200,000 to develop 2 accredited training courses for people with autism in hospitality, and $300,000 is going to Specialist Stern to work with 8 businesses and 2 recruitment agencies, as well as placing 20 people with autism into businesses to make businesses more confident in employing people with autism, to ensure that we can get them into the workplace. And I say this, excited not only as a mother of a child with autism, but also someone who employs someone with autism and wants to see attitudes change across business, to see that, people with autism have a great set of skills, they have a great contribution to make, and we want businesses to see that, and to see that with the right supports, we can really ensure that these people live their best lives and change attitudes and give them the opportunity to make a great contribution to workplaces and the community.
Well, I have to say I'm used to politicians giving me donuts, but I'm glad I'm getting one of the pastry variety today. That's very kind, thank you. A lot of people would look at the stress that so many small businesses are going through right now. It's an incredibly difficult time for many, and many would say that they don't want to take on someone with different needs because it's going to be more work. What's your message to them?
The Morrison government is totally committed to ensuring people with a disability have the opportunity to enter the workforce, and that's why Minister Robert, through the NDIS, has ensured people with their NDIS plans are able to access support workers and get the funding for those support workers. And also through Job Access, there is the ability to get support for people with disabilities and special needs, get them the support in the workplace. We certainly did that in my office to ensure that the person that I employed with autism got the right support, and that support is it's not always ongoing. Sometimes it's just at the initial stages to learn a new skill, and once that's up and running, quite often there is no need for additional support. Then also because of the very specific skills people with autism quite often have, especially in that IT space, their ability to focus, their ability to stay on task, and in a way that's different from people who, like you and I, who might wander off and get a little distracted and spend a bit too much time socialising. They have less interest in that, so can quite often make a very big contribution in a way that's different from you and I.
And just on that personal point, as you're the mother of a son who's autistic, how did you feel watching William Callahan this week? I know so many people were just absolutely heartbroken at his disappearance, and then just so relieved when he was found.
When Penny Callahan gave that press conference, I mean, I know how she did it, but I don't know how she did it. Everything that she said is what so many autism mums have said over and over again. Lots of us have had children, those of us who have children with autism, that abscond, that like to run away, that have been non-verbal, or what we like to sometimes say pre-verbal, when our kids do develop speech. We don't know where they're going. They obviously can't tell us. Hands over the ears. I mean, we all felt for her. I know every Australian was feeling for that family, but every mother of an autistic child, every father of an autistic child was just holding their breath the whole time William was missing. We also had another little boy, or another teenager in New South Wales, missing at the same time. The fact both of them were found safe and well was just such a huge relief. The fact that he was missing on Mount Disappointment, the name alone was just, it should be renamed Mount William. I mean, it's just extraordinary that he was found, such relief. The fact he got Macca's on the way home. Every autism mother will tell you how much our kids rely on chicken nuggets to get through the day. So it was just, it's honestly the best news story of 2020. But this year, I mean, honestly, right. We all laugh at how this year can't get worse, but he is the best news story of 2020 so far.
Absolutely. If I could turn and ask you about some news of the day. The pressures on Queensland in particular to be lifting the borders. We're expecting the Gold Coast Mayor to get up shortly and say that he's going to go in a different direction from the Premier already. Do you think that the border should be lifted between Queensland and the rest of the country?
Absolutely. I mean, it's extraordinary that the Premier of Queensland, coming into July school holidays, a state that relies on tourism, is maintaining its border closure. I mean, I know we saw the protests last week and we're all holding our breath hoping there's not a second wave, but the fact that they're maintaining border closures with a state that's so reliant on tourism, the fact that the Premier is putting all of these businesses at risk is just totally unnecessary. We've got a situation yesterday in the Senate where a far northern Queensland Labor senator was making a speech about airlines and tourism, and, you know, we were all sitting there gobsmacked thinking it was irony because the borders are closed. She can't talk about tourism when no one's allowed to go there. It is absolutely extraordinary and unnecessary, and the Premier of Queensland needs to stop thinking about her own political future and her own job and think about the jobs of Queenslanders and the businesses of those tourist operators, the restaurants, the hotels, and every single Queenslander needs to get behind hopefully the Mayor of the Gold Coast when he does make that announcement and ensure that the borders open as soon as possible.
And we've had news that there is likely to be more Black Lives Matter rallies across the country. This is after a number of COVID cases at a number of rallies. But we've also had Malarndirri McCarthy on this morning saying that the Prime Minister's driving division over this issue, especially with his comments that Australia doesn't have a history of slavery. Do you think that the Prime Minister should be trying to get more unity on this issue?
I don't know why these protesters seem to think they're more important than every other Australian that has worked so hard to flatten the curve. Millions of Australians have put their lives on hold. They have stayed home to flatten the curve. Australia is leading the way across the globe coming out of this COVID crisis, and these protesters seem to think that they are more important than every other Australian, every business owner, every veteran that we didn't go out and honour during Anzac Day when we stood in our driveways rather than marching and honouring those veterans. But somehow or other, these protesters seem to think they are more important than everybody else. And if these protests generate a second wave, if they set the community transmission of COVID again and send us back into a lockdown that is a $4 billion per week cost to the economy, it is absolutely disgraceful that they are going against Supreme Court rulings, that somehow or other they know better than all the health officials. It is absolutely appalling, and the behaviour shouldn't be condoned.
Senator Hollie Hughes, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Annalise, and I promise I'll deliver this donut.